I regret it. I regret turning the game on today.
Shouldn't have watched. Safe to say, shouldn't have watched.
It was the exact opposite of what you want to have happen. You want to either come into this knowing you're going to win, knowing you're going to be okay with your performance, or zero hope whatsoever. And you just know that you're going to your grave. And what happens? We draft everything we want to draft.
The dream.
And despite a really early mistake, look good early. Yeah. And then just make the stupidest mistakes ever and watch it fall apart.
Sounds about right.
Welcome to Worlds 2022. And welcome to 100 Talk for this week, everybody. 100 Thieves fans everywhere. I don't know what to say. I mean, obviously, you know how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I do.
What do we do here?
Do you have the voice shifter still on there?
Oh, do I?
No, I'm asking if you still have it.
Oh, should I put it on so I sound even more ridiculous?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I should look into that. Anyway, here we talk about the League of Legends team and the League of Legends team's performance and of missed opportunities. And tonight, I think it's just going to be express our sadness and commiserate with the good old 100 Talkers.
Yeah, it feels like an end of year pod.
1 week early.
A week early, but is it early? I don't know. I think it's probably just on time.
Yeah, I guess it's got to be over at this point. So
yeah.
All right. I think we will step through some of the games just because they all had their unique flavor of weirdness / suckage.
Yeah.
But before we do that, let me just say, finally trying the third flavor tonight. Oh, and of course it's green. Right. Of course it's green. I got to do them a proper respect here. Hold on. All right. There you go. Drinking Juvie tonight. Kiwi strawberry. I'm trying this flavor for the first time. I've had the other two. I like Tropical Crush the best. We're going to see where this one slots in, everybody. So, bottoms up. That wasn't really the greatest top pop, was it? Ooh, this one's good.
Oh. All right, cool. So in the tier here, would you put, is this CFO or is this GenG or is this RNG? Like
Dude, this flavor might be RNG flavored.
Oh, like sadness and despair?
Oh, you mean how 100 Thieves played? Oh, I'm sorry, because I assumed there would be a good option, a positive option.
Our scale. I meant like we played the best against this team, the worst against this team. Good, medium, bad.
This flavor is like, oh man, this flavor is like when we reverse swept EG.
Wow. Ooh, that's a good flavor.
Was that a reverse sweep or was that just a 3-2? I can't remember.
Oh,
anyway,
it was felt like a reverse sweep.
Did it? Okay, yeah. It's been a long time. Sorry, everybody.
It was the most reverse sweep 3-1 of all time.
Yeah.
You know, it's the game where we were all dead in the well. Our respawn timers were 8.5 minutes. Our Nexus turrets were down. They were in our base. And somehow we still won the game. That was that game.
No, that doesn't give this Juvie enough credit. So I'm not sure I put this above Tropical Crush. I'm leaning towards a yes, but I'm not sure. I need to have another Tropical Crush to judge. But this is a good flavor. Better than I expected. I expected to like it the least. And it is definitely a candidate for best. So
wow.
The watermelon one, actually, the watermelon lime is my least favorite, which I very much didn't expect. Anyway, that's the Juvie portion of our night. I mean, I'll be drinking it all stream, but
that's right.
Okay. I guess we're supposed to talk about the games.
If we have to, if we must.
Oh, man. So NA is 0-9. And of course, we are the last team in that sequence there. Everybody saw what happened tonight. It was weird. We're going to hold off on that. let's wind back. Let's start with the worst first, and then maybe that'll make us feel better as we go on.
Okay.
So I want to talk about the Flying Oyster game, or what I'm referring to as the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad game.
Yeah, that's the one.
And one of the things we were watching for is, what is our team going to do with Sejuani? Are we going to keep banning it? Are we going to play it? Are we going to let it through and play against it?
Oh.
You know? Got some options. And
Permaban
I was,
up to this
yeah,
point.
it has been basically a permaban for us through the LCS playoffs. And we picked it. We said, not only will Sejuani be played in this game, it will be played by us. It will be played by Closer.
You've heard of him. He's fearsome. Give him Sejuani. Let's see what he can do.
Closer known for his tank play.
Yeah.
Tank jungler play.
Just bruiser.
Now, rate your level of surprise from 1 to surprise party your wife throws for you.
That we picked it, or that Closer played it, or just
his level of play.
Oh, his level of play.
Yeah, your surprise about the level of his play.
Put me in at a big old 2. And it's
I
only
expected
one
higher. I'm not gonna lie.
Yep. It's 1 higher than the bare minimum, because very clearly we aren't in love with this champion. We've banned it so much. We had many opportunities to play it, always decided not to. This game was the case in point of why we had been banning it up to this point, which is to say that Closer didn't look good or impactful on this champion in any way. In fact, you could say he squandered his talent on this champion. It was sort of weird.
Okay, I have to say this, even though it jumps way ahead into what we were going to talk about with this game. This is basically the last point I was going to make, but I have to make it now since you're talking about this. Closer made the coolest looking losing Sejuani play I've ever seen in my life. The one time a player managed to make Sejuani look cool and desirable was when we got soundly defeated and lost the game. It was so he, like, Closer always talks about Michael Jordan being his favorite player. I mean, this dude threw the head fake on Sejuani. It was so clean, so sick.
Yeah.
And it did do something. It lost us the game. It was very bad.
Yeah.
He did the little dash. I forget what the name of the ability is. He dashed out of the pit, I think, or maybe that pixel brush. I can't remember which. But he dashed out clearly towards one of their champions, and they freaked out and backed out while landing the glacial prison to the no-look glacial prison.
Yeah.
On like the ADC or somebody.
Yep.
And it actually proved to be our downfall the whole game. I was so sad. I was like, when it happened, I was like, let's go finally. And then
yeah, that's it. That was it.
It was it's like, I don't even know if it was mistimed or whatever. It, the actual amount of time that the glacial prison stun locked whoever it was was like very low.
Yeah, he must have had boots or some kind of tenacity build or something.
Yeah,
but
because it was way too short and there was no follow up, and then everybody was just, dead at that point. I felt so sad, and if there's ever a proof that I never want to see Closer play that champion again, it's that. Never mind the constant missed skill shots. He missed the like little whip things. He missed the ult in other times. Like, it looked bad. It really looked bad. And then the one time he like swaggers out a bit with his Sejuani ult, it cost us the whole game, man. It's like, you remember being on soccer teams with like a kid who would like just try the craziest moves in the middle of a game and lose the ball?
Oh yeah.
That's exactly what that was like. Yeah. Sorry, I was that kid in our childhood soccer team.
You get 15, crossovers in a row, and then just like the kid would walk up and take the ball. Got it. You look good though. You don't look that good.
It was cool. It was a cool move.
Yeah.
It wasn't just closer missing the skill shots though. I don't know what happened. I thought like we were gonna have to tech pause and calibrate the mice or something because nothing was landing. Um, I don't know. It was like everybody looked so incredibly out of sorts. How many times are we gonna get hyped up for an in-person big significant match and come out of the gates and get destroyed? How many times is that gonna happen? I really want to know. Like what how are we not learning from this? How can we be so cold and off our game coming in?
That's a good question. Are you looking for a literal answer?
Yes, I'm looking for anything.
Um, I would put it in the range of 0 to 3 more times. Because spoiler alert, I don't think there's going to be another event where this roster is trotting out to play Sejuani against a minor region team. I don't think that happens again. You know? So maybe up to 3 more times is the answer I'll give you, but no more than 3. We got a hard cap.
Did you see that play where Abadago missed the R2 and I think like got stuck under turret or something
Yes.
on the Akali?
He got stunned shortly before he could actually press R2. Just it's just sad. It's just sad.
I think we had a couple errant bandages also from Huhi.
We had everything that could go wrong. That's the weirdest thing about this game to me. Is it's like we just looked so flat in every dimension of our game. Like from the moment we started our draft, we had, kind of like, I don't know, wacky draft syndrome to like weird deactivate brain to, just nobody was hitting anything. Yeah, unlucky. Like there was definitely some unlucky stuff going on.
Can we talk about the misfortune pick?
Yeah. This is the
Okay.
one that we watched back a few times and didn't feel any better about as we watched it more.
I mean, I don't think there was much to be proud of in this. I think there was one river play around Dragon where Huhi got a nice Zenith Blade, or not Zenith Blade. Well, he's bandages into the stun, and FBI like ripped with the ult. Like we had one or two of those, which was kind of okay. But I am just so shocked that Misfortune has been such a massive power pick, and FBI looks like me when he plays it. And I'm not even joking. Did you see the ults? The ults look like me, like actually look like my ults. Like I'm not exaggerating.
That's not hyperbole. You're not.
It'll be, he'll like ult into a team fight and like it's at like a 90-degree angle and everybody's kind of split anyway. And it's not doing any useful zoning and barely any damage will land. Or it's just like he'll just miss. Like there was one where he was in around mid on South Jungle, right? And like ulting back towards the lane. And it's like there's a choke point there that everybody has to be in. And he missed the choke point.
Oh,
it's trouble. Like you've got like this nice little wedge.
It's the same shape.
It's not that hard to put it in the choke point, right? Like he looked like me for real.
Yeah. It's just like we've talked about FBI. He hasn't played Kaisa even once, man. Just hasn't like. This is what I mean. I just don't get it. Like it's like somebody came into our draft meeting and was like, "Here are the champs who are really good. So if any of these champs are the ones you guys are good at, play those." I'm like, well, we're not good at any of those, but they are good. So we'll play them. I don't think that's the winning plan. It would appear that's not it because FBI just looked completely lost. Like the number of times he hit, you described the one where he mismatched the shape. He had the few where he hit it and he channeled it for like a half a second and then realized he had to go, Like, that's not the high impact MF ult you're looking for. He's not looked comfortable.
Yeah. Man, I'm having trouble remembering because we've had so many bad experiences to go over here. But was it the Oysters game where we saw the weirdness of like the Baron play?
I think it was.
Okay.
I think it
So
was.
we have to
Or
talk-
no.
What's that?
Chat will let us know. So we'll describe the play and then we can figure out. But like, no, it was GenG because
Oh,
we were
was it
like
for sure?
looking good. We made a play. We stole the Baron, and then we decided to try to get a little bit more. Oh, it was CFO.
They're saying it's CFO, yeah.
So yeah, I thought we were actually looking. I didn't think.
Look,
See,
all
this
this
thing,
runs together.
I didn't think we ever had that much hope.
We
against
can
CFO.
talk about it for sure.
Yeah, but we went back and watched that, you and I, like 6 times because it looked so weird in the moment. You're like, surely there's a reason that we realized, like, oh no, we're actually stuck here. We gotta take whatever fight we can get. It wasn't, man. It's just like he was ulting into the darkness, and then an Aatrox came over.
Yeah. It was like you got the
it.
steal and closer's gonna die. Just everybody get out.
Yeah,
You
4 Baron
job's
buffs.
done.
Fine. Yeah.
Job's done. Leave. And they like stayed to fight and then hesitated on getting out. And guess what? You get caught and you get run over.
He did like a quadruple take. And then by the time he started his ult, people were dashing the wall.
The ult like not doing anything.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Well, that's also it. You're down big. You're down big on gold. They out-itemed us basically across the board. Like even if they were low, and they weren't low. Like there was no, if you hit a full channel MF ult at that time, I don't honestly know that you accomplish anything. Right? Because like you just then back and reset. And they also do that. Like that's the thing that for me is almost the most deflating, is it just feels like we're making very poor decisions. You know?
A couple people, YouTube chat and Twitch chat, calling out the disjointedness and relating that to comms. And I think that's probably true because it does definitely seem like everybody's on opposite pages. You know, we saw Huhi go in to make a sacrifice to free up everyone, and everybody just followed him in for the death. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, like, gotta communicate about the purpose of what's happening here.
Yep.
It's been really a mess. It's been really a mess. I especially hated the whole thing about 100 Thieves underestimating Flying Oyster, right? It's like, oh, they laughed at him. Picking groups. Like, I think we it's too late to get ahead of this. It's too late to bury this, but honestly, rewind your minds back. What happened at that time was we just had gotten clapped by C9, right?
Yeah.
And what we were seeing with the picks was that C9 was getting piled on in their group, getting devastated, making our group not as bad as it otherwise could have been.
Right.
All those smiles and laughs. I do not think that was specifically a diss to Flying Oyster. I think it was more like, wow, we're really getting a better draw here than C9. Like, I mean, we were like, I think we were doing a watch party during that. And I remember just being like, wow, holy crap. Like, we are so lucky here. And it wasn't about Flying Oyster so bad.
Yeah.
You know?
It was the
and then there's that person who like
possible.
saved it and like, mark my words, you underestimate Flying Oyster, you shall pay. And so I hate that that's what happened, because that person feels like they called it right. It's like, no, that had nothing to do with it, man. That had nothing.
I mean,
to
it's
do
still a loss that hurts.
Yes,
you know?
absolutely. No doubt. But it wasn't this whole like disrespect towards them thing. I don't know, man. Well,
I mean, look, you just got to ask yourself, if you are trying to advance the narrative that we were disrespecting Flying Oyster, would you rather play Flying Oyster or any LPL or LCK team?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like, what do you expect people to...
The answer is Oyster. If you're...
You should know Flying Oyster is going to win the whole thing. You know, it's like, come on, guys.
You're doubting them?
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, so it's fine. It's fine. Somebody, yeah, I'm glad that somebody clipped that. This is why you do content as an organization, so people have material to clip out of context.
Um, just looking at how that went for us, by the way, like I don't think we ever had a gold lead in that game somehow. It was close maybe for 15 minutes or so before it really snowballed out of control. And just nothing worked. The comp didn't work. Our hands didn't work. Our brains didn't work. So I tweeted right before that game. I was like, it's actually kind of difficult because this is a must win game for us when you think about it. If we don't beat Flying Oyster in both games, what are our chances for advancing out of this group? And guess what? We don't get to play our RNG and GenG game before we get them.
Right.
We have to play them right off the bat. So coming in cold, which for whatever reason we do, we have to win our first game. It's an actual must win. And our dudes, I mean, I have fought forever against the narrative that they don't handle pressure well. I can't keep making that argument because all of the evidence since summer of 2021 basically is against that. It just especially with crowds, it just seems like the guys don't play in crowds. Closer, I think is Closer, and Someday I don't worry about, but the other three guys, I don't know what's going on. I really don't know what's going on. But this sucks.
Yeah, I mean that's for me the thing. I feel like for each of these games, there's like a what if or a regret. And for me, the thing with this game is, what if we just came out and played our game? And I feel like I've heard this as a narrative kind of throughout the tournament.
Yeah.
Of teams just kind of doing what they do. You know, like if you are a team that fights all the dang time, never stop fighting, right? Just keep doing that. And yeah, maybe you lose, but at least you played your game. Because now it feels like we lost this game, and it honestly feels like we lost because we were just trying to do worlds. You know, like what's the worlds game? When honestly, enough of our champs that we like historically and that we're good at and that we've won titles with are viable. Like they're getting a pretty high level of play. And so for me, it's just like, why are we moving into these spaces that we're not actually comfortable with? One, to start, you know, it's like starting off on your worst foot or like your least certain foot. And turns out also your worst foot. Um, I just don't see the upside to that. I mean, I guess the upside is if you start off with something new and you're great at it, look out. They've got the world's meta on lock. Yeah. It's not just Aatrox, who by the way, everyone's playing, and Lee Sin, who's getting a bunch of play. And you know, it's like go down the list. I would be fine if after one game we had a win and the other teams in our groups were thinking, okay, they can play the champs that everyone else is playing. Like what does that hurt? We'll never know.
I'll never have an explanation for it.
I won't either.
Well, I don't know. The thing is, the order of operations matters for all this stuff, right? Because it's any way you slice it. What's your draft plan, right? The order of operation matters. Like, what do you do first? Do you play the meta and then fall into comfort? Do you stay committed to comfort and say screw the meta? And then how those results happen, like guide your response to those things. This is working, this isn't working, or whatever. So there's that. And I think like it's smart to check the meta first, in my opinion. Okay. Because, you know, you can at least take advantage of that unpredictability early. But if it goes bad, you clearly need to audible. And we didn't really do that right away. That makes the second game more interesting. And the third game interesting too. Honestly, if you just reorder these games, think how different you would be feeling about this Worlds. Say we had our RNG game first, right? And we played
Yep.
that game against RNG. What are we saying on the pod? We're like, man, we had him. We were so close. We had him. We made a couple dumb mistakes. All we got to do, stop making those dumb
Clean 'em up.
mistakes, and we'll be fine.
Yep.
Then we go in and play Gen.G. And it's like, oh man, it was kind of the same thing. We were kind
Yeah.
of with them a little bit. I know we weren't like, you know, it wasn't as good as RNG, but still, they're a really good team. Maybe we can just put it together. And then, you know, it's like if you have those to build on, how we're feeling is way different than when you start out flat against the one team that you're supposed to beat, you know?
Right.
And we've had our close shaves before. We had a close game with G-Rex in 2018. We had a miraculous base defense, like flip the whole game on its head against DFM last year to barely bounce out of that. And then on the back of that to beat EDG, eventual world champions. I mean, these things happen. The close games are going to happen. And that's why it's like, I'm having trouble rationalizing how bad I feel about this because the result is not terribly different than what we should have expected.
Right.
I think we would have expected probably one close game against Oyster where we beat him, and then one game where we beat him pretty decisively. That's probably a reasonable expectation, right? And then we expect to lose the other games, and hopefully we play them close. The actual end result is not that different than what we expected, but the way it feels just puts it into a tailspin.
Yeah, I got to rewind a little bit, because I think I know why this feels as bad as it does to me, and it's so thinking back to like early playoffs, we were kind of talking about like what's this roster, right? It was around the time that everybody was saying like, hey, we should probably start talking about rosters. We're like, guys, chill.
Yeah.
We are just going into playoffs, or maybe honestly, it was the point like I think that at which we locked worlds. It's like we not only have more playoffs to play, we're not making a roster change. We have worlds to play, and we're not making a roster change.
Yeah.
So cool it for now. But at the time, it was kind of like, well, what's it going to take for us? You know, we're not going to talk rosters. This is what we said at the time. We're going to forecast to what might change the roster talk. And for me, it was like, we need to do better than we did last Worlds. That's really what it's going to take. We're going to have to get out of groups. We're going to have to make a statement. Like this roster needs to show that even though we keep falling down in finals, we still have a ceiling that is way up here, way up here. And honestly, what it feels like now is, oh yeah, the C9 series is pretty representative of what you can expect. And that's just not even close to where the org needs this roster to be, to entertain the possibility of continuing to, you know, run it back in any form
and spend the money
for me,
to do so.
Yeah, like you've got to make a crazy argument to say this is worth the investment. And I think these first three games, kind of regardless, even if by some miracle, honestly, fluke is what it would be. I will be the first to say it. If we fluke our way out of this group, because there's a lot of things that have to fall into place, I still think the conversation is in basically the same place, which is that really what we want to, you know, bet the ship on? Like, do we want to say that like, yeah, 2023, like we're fluking our way back out of groups. Let's go, baby.
Fluking our way out of groups.
we're just gonna
what are we,
our way
C9?
all the way to the trophy. Seriously,
2-4 getting out
with a 2-4 record. Yeah. So I think for me, that's why it feels like so deflating, because I think you can do a little bit of a fast forward here, and I anticipate the Papa Smithy video. I'm thinking about the roster reveal. It's like we got now people are thinking about Busio and Tenacity and what are we going to do there, you know? So for me, it's like these next three games, honestly, don't really matter that much to me. And kind of everything after the CFO game felt like it didn't really matter to me that much, unless we're going to make some crazy statement beating Gen.G and RNG.
And
that was kind of it.
Oysters.
And avenging Oysters. That was kind of it. And I think that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So that's where it feels like the wind is gone. Like the sails are still. There's no wind.
Well, then we get to do the insane mental gymnastics beyond that, because then if we do 3-0, it's like, okay, so we finished 3-3. But last year's 3-3, that wasn't quite as good as this one, because that one was 2 wins against DFM and 1 against EDG. But now we beat every other team in the group. We beat 2 of the big dogs. So this one is incrementally better. Therefore, run it back all the same.
I guess that's it.
We didn't even talk about this second game much.
Do we need to, honestly?
Yeah, yes. Because this whole conversation, we got into it because I was going to make a point that in another context, I would actually be kind of impressed with the response. Because look, we lost GenG in a sad way, but we kept that game close for like 23 minutes. Do you remember what Someday did to Doran?
I will never forget. Added to the things that I won't forget.
Someday made Doran look like Solo.
Bro, I was going to say something very similar. I was going to say Someday made Doran look like Fudge.
I love it. Oh man, I love that Fudge is having a terrible finals or a terrible world. Sorry.
But I agree with you wholeheartedly. Yeah.
And it wasn't just Doran. He was like 1v3 in team fights doing a lot of stuff. Someday looked excellent. And then just like always, it didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Another nice little thing. We actually got real cheers in the Gen.G game. We got 100 Thieves cheers.
Did we get a USA cheer too?
Yeah, we did get a USA cheer. I was not expecting the crowd to ever be on our side, because they just NA just does not like us. So I was very it was a little bit of a touching moment, while we're fighting our best against Gen.G to an inevitable death,
Yeah.
feeling a little bit like Lord of the Rings, making your stand, knowing you're going to die.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the most underreported thing from our world's experience as 100 Thieves fans. Cheers from the NA fans. Thank you for supporting us. Maybe it's just the convenience of no other NA team getting a win, so they're desperately hoping somebody does. But hey, it worked for EG in Houston, so let's run with that. Hold on, I got to read this comment from BC, which we don't usually read Twitch chat on the pod, but it was just hilarious because I think I say that every pod now and then read something from chat.
Yeah.
This is becoming
But you should keep saying it. Don't stop saying it.
I won't stop saying it. Well, I just do that so people don't think we're going to do it. BC says, how 100 ends in sole possession or tied for at least second? There are 8 scenarios. 100 team must win match 1. 100 team must win match 4. If CFO wins match 2. If RNG wins match 3. RNG must win match 5. RNG must win match 6. If 100 wins match 3, nothing else required. If Gen wins match 2, 100 team must win match 3. If CFO wins match 5, nothing else required. RNG must win match 6. So there's all these insane things that need to happen.
Right. So you're saying it's a lock.
It's a lock.
We're guaranteed, basically guaranteed at least second in group at this point. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then, not to be, so I think this game felt in some ways like a ticking time bomb, right? Like a powder keg or something, where even while we were ahead or looking good, it kind of felt like at any moment it's going to go sideways.
Yep.
And honestly, it kind of did. The peanut steal of the third drag was insane. Yeah. And we basically unraveled at that point. And the game was never the same. You just never know if that play goes differently, what happens with the guys. But unfortunately, we don't seem to have the proper composure in these situations. And I think that above everything is running through as the DNA for this Worlds trip. Because today's RNG match, again, we drafted what we all wanted to draft. Okay, maybe you want a little tweak here and there. But you look at what we're playing. We've got Closer on Viego. We've got Someday on Aatrox. We've got FBI on Aphelios, Abadaga on Talia. I still like that pick. I know some people are like, well, we don't win on it. That's just because we don't win. But like, I think for the most part, I really like him on that champ. He on the Leona, I think is fine. And
better than Sven on the other,
yeah, it represents definitely a different approach than our first two games, right?
Yeah.
And we still didn't have the composure to pull this thing off. This was like, look, RNG, better hands for sure. These are better mechanical players. No one's ever going to dispute that, okay? But our complete inability to maintain mental composure is why we lost this game. Think about some of the things we did. We started a team fight without Someday, who's clearly like, at that moment, the strength of the comp, him and Closer, right?
Yeah.
We started a fight, a huge team fight, when he was like miles away. Didn't have a chance. If he's there, we might win that fight and actually start extending our lead. The most egregious thing of the day for me was around 20 minutes who he just completely inted. They had 3 people mid. We had a full vision of this. 3 people mid. They walk into that brush just on the north of middle mid lane, right?
Yep.
Who he face checks that like 3 seconds later. And I believe, I need to go back and watch, but I'm pretty sure we had vision beyond that in the river. So it's like there was not a question of where they were. There was no question. We definitely knew that there are 3 people there.
Yeah.
And he just walks in and face checks it and immediately dies.
He was killed so fast. It was unbelievable.
I cannot understand that play. I cannot understand it. Nothing. Someone made a joke about not having object permanence, like in a prior game. And this, if I was diagnosing it, I would watch this play. And then what happened around Dragon Soul to us? What was that? Jat was calling this out. Man, Jat made me enraged today on the cast. But what happened with that soul setup? With the let's forfeit all positioning and vision in the river. Let's recall late. Let's watch them take the soul.
We got there so late. We just kind of
late
walked up as they're at like 2k health, and then
someone should tell us that the soul is actually permanent. It's not like Baron where if you kill them after they get it, they lose it. It gets bumped off. It's not like that. Once they get the soul, it's there, whether you like it or not.
Doesn't seem balanced. I mean, you're telling me we're not supposed to give the first 3 dragons? That's not a good play either. Come on.
I think one or two of those is like we had no choice. So I'm kind of not mad about that.
I think
we were choosing to do other things on the map.
Yeah. Okay. It's one thing to say we had no choice. It's another thing to say we were choosing to do other things.
Yeah, that's fair. But you know what I mean? It was like right. Based on how it's going, we're like, okay, let's like slam top and continue to push this opportunity we have to take a tower or 2.
Right.
And give them a dragon.
We made a bet that we could basically outscale and make their dragon advantage irrelevant. And we lost that bet. In part because
I wouldn't say outscale, but out money, right? We would
we were trying
outpace them.
Accelerate the Aphelios.
Yeah.
I don't think that calculus probably includes just giving them the 4th dragon. Like that's not part of it. That's not how you draw that one up. So yeah.
And when it was over, by the way. All that work we did, it was just done. It was like, okay, there is that. Let's get aced. They have the soul now, and they're just going to walk right down and win.
That's the thing. For this game, I was thinking about this, right? Like, I think it was, I listened to a few of the interviews on Travis's channel this or earlier today. Reapered was talking about how he feels like
Oh
the
my
level is
gosh.
just higher.
We got to talk
Other
about Reapered.
We'll talk about it. Other people were talking about how they're not sure the level is higher. And I can't remember exactly how that, like, who made that comment or how it went. But watching these, it's like, are we going to say that someday is outmatched by Doran? Like, is that argument at least? I recognize one game is one game, right? And that if you played him 10 times, maybe he wins 9 out of 10 lanes. But this one he didn't, and that's how you evaluate these things. So I'm having a hard time trying to figure out, is it that they are at a different level than us, or is it just that they are better? And let me put a point on that.
Okay.
It feels like we just stop playing at a certain, like, I couldn't tell you, like, is it that they're so much better than us, or that we just make stupid mistakes that nobody should make? Like,
Yeah.
that's what it feels like to me.
Our
Like,
macro and our strategy is so bad compared to theirs that they know they
like,
can sit back and wait for it.
like the CFO MF ult, like the incomprehensible approach to Dragon Soul in RNG, like, Gen.G. I'm not sure what Poppy. I didn't talk about this. Poppy was even more useless than Sejuani was. The only
Dude,
thing he did was interrupt like one person's dash. Literally the entire game.
his missed Poppy ults reel is probably like, Netflix has to bid on the full season now. It's so long.
So
It's not going to be a one-off. It's
I
a
hate it.
series.
This gonna sound like unfair criticism. It's just reporting of the facts. He misses them consistently. There's not really another way to say it. And without those ults, you have to, like, look, Lee Sin is a decent champion. If you can insec the ADC into the middle of 4 of your team members, Lee Sin is the best champion in the game. Poppy is a champion. If you can use the Poppy ult effectively, it's a good champion, because you can
Sorry,
get rid
it's
of,
just Poppy is a champion.
yeah, you can get rid of the front line. Surprise, there's no front line now. And it's just, how are you going to deal with that? Or, oh, it's a smite fight. Sorry, you don't have a jungler anymore. They're not in this game. They're in a different one. But if you don't hit the ult once, it's not even like, so there's hitting the ult. You then have to get to the point where you can do the Lee Sin insec, where you ward hop, you hit a Q, you follow it, then you ward hop, then you kick. Like, that's the level remove we are. We can't even hit the ult. And sometimes when we hit the ult, it saves people who would have otherwise died. So these are the things, just like, do we even want to win these games? Why are we doing this? So that's the thing that's frustrating me. It's like, is it that the level's different, or are we just not thinking about this? And when you face check a bush full of people, when you put these champions together, when you just mess up the basics, I'm like, dude, I just feel like we're not there. That's the thing that's a bummer. We're not there.
And it's so inexplicable from like what we've been in the past. I don't know. It seems like, we made the joke about like losing our mojo, right? Like the Austin Powers thing. But it's just, I can't think of it any other way. I don't know
Yeah,
how
it's so weird.
how we've gotten to that point.
I don't either, man. I really don't.
I think so much of it is just like, we're not used to being punished for everything. Anything that goes wrong, they immediately, like Oyster did this too. Anything that went wrong, we immediately faced a consequence. I don't think we're used to that. It's like a lot of times in LCS, you make the mistake and it's try again. Darn it, that didn't work. We're gonna reset and try again.
Right.
It's the difference between being in high school, taking auto shop, and then like trying to fix a car in the real world, right?
Right. You're on a Formula One pit team.
Don't worry, Mr. Sumbler trained me for this.
I've used a wrench before. This should be fine. Yeah,
um, I don't know.
I
So
don't know.
the maybe encouraging thing is this last draft, but I'll never be able to understand why we were doing what we were doing earlier with our picks when
Yeah.
they so clearly didn't work. Now, someone mentioned what Sven said about this, where it's like you're scrimming LCK and LPL teams and you're losing every scrim. You don't get much useful data on here's what works and here's what doesn't work because you just lose no matter what.
Right.
At this point, is it even advantageous to boot camp in Korea or to scrim them before events?
Yeah.
Isn't it just like we flounder because we don't pick up any useful conclusions from this? Is that what's going on?
It's like guerrilla war. Like you just can't let the enemy know all of your weak. You can't try to face them on level ground. You have to use anything to your advantage. Subterfuge. We should sub in players who have never played competitively before. Guys who are, like Ivern one tricks. Like I don't know, just do weird stuff at that point because you're not going to beat them in an honest match. You know,
The trick plays, we're gonna become a trick play team.
right, right. It's like we have guys.
We're
We
gonna pull
know that
out the
this is
5 ADC comp from Rec
we're
League.
gonna pull out the 5 ADC comp. It seems weird, but trust us, this is our best shot.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
We brought the ADC from amateur, ADC from academy. We've got FBI. We're
Tactical
you
was
know,
released today. He gets
we're
picked
doing
up.
it. Tactical's here. We signed him on a
A
10 day
10-day
contract.
and solo top.
And there you go. That's it. That's the team.
It's gotten so bad, man. It's gotten so bad. I've never seen a collapse like this. It's so confounding. Some of these players, like I can't explain it. He was so solid and so good for so long, and now it's time to take him back behind the shed and
Oh,
old
no.
yeller him.
Oh no.
Or something, because it's getting so bad, man. It's getting so bad. And this is, remember, we've talked this whole time about shelf life being a thing. It's like, look at all the chemistry where you get to develop by having these same players. I mean, maybe it's like the heat death of 100 Thieves, where, for people who aren't familiar, it's like, give the universe enough time, all these interactions where energy is lost, eventually everything just becomes ice cold and still, right? And dies. That's like the heat death of the universe. And we don't have any chemical reaction in the team anymore because everything's like stale and stagnant. Maybe that's the thing. But it's hard to look at what's happened to us when it comes to winning at the top level and think that the extra time together as a team is an advantage. If you want to be a team who wins a lot but never wins the title, maybe there's something. And a lot of pro teams play that way. They say, "Hey, we just need to be good enough to sell the tickets." Well, we're not selling tickets.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but everything that should work for us has not worked recently. And we have had a great regular season, 3 splits in a row. We won a title the first time. We got embarrassed in the big events ever since. And I don't know. It's so frustrating to be basically at the top of NA and just have it not matter at all.
Yeah.
So the difference between second place and first place in NA should not feel like a canyon, but it does right now.
Are you there are a couple of things you said. There's like an interesting sports thing here, and I'm not esports, just any competition. Chess, football, League of Legends. Everybody stops being the best at some point.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody who was once the best is no longer the best. Barring some exceptions. But even those people who are still the best will not be the best after a certain amount of time. It's just a question of how much time. We have answered that question. We know the answer to that question. So it's the weird thing about it is this is in some ways this is the most predictable outcome possible, right? Everybody who was the best is not the best anymore. And it doesn't change how confusing it is, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, nothing changed. Same coach, same players, same staff, same team, same
Robust
organization,
resources, good. Like
same
you're saying,
resource.
same stuff. These are good staff. These are good players.
Yeah, and they're just not as good anymore. So that's that's the outcome. I think it was a good idea to try running it back
Yeah, I agree.
because in some ways that was the novel thing to do, right? Everybody else they took the boggle cube and they shook, and then they saw what words they could make with the new team. And sometimes the words were TSM esque, and other times they were TL esque. But it's our turn now to shake up the cube and see what happens. I don't know why. And you could ask the same question. Well, why did this championship team no longer win? And you could ask it a million times about a million different teams. And there's always going to be different answers to some degree, but probably similar things like new talent came into the league, people innovated, played the game differently. Just like all of these things are probably in some
Meta.
way related to what we're seeing. Meta, I think that's where we're at. That's one layer. The other layer is internationally. And I have a thought about internationally what we should do, but I don't want to go there yet if you don't want to go there yet.
Yeah, we can hold it as long as
Yeah.
you remember it. But yeah, I think that's
I've
part
been
of.
trying to forget it, and I can't. So that's pretty good.
I think part of the frustration is knowing that these are good players that have been very good to the org, right? And the staff is really good staff. I feel like everybody, deserves confidence and respect and everything, and then just something changed about the results. And I agree with you. I don't think what we did this year was a bad idea. I think it was a good idea. In fact, I think it was the best idea of the options we had.
Right.
I didn't predict this to be the result where we just kind of are imploding whenever there's a significant moment. And it's got to be frustrating to be, Papa Smithy or Reapered or Chimera or Joe or whoever, right? Or Tim, to work so hard and put these game plans together and then they can't push the buttons,
Yeah.
So I just feel so bad because on paper this should have worked. And it clearly didn't. And as a region, things are just so bad. Like one of the comments, I'm going to steal this from BC, which I'm famous for doing, stealing things from BC. He said, he brought up, and I think he took this from Reddit or something, but he was saying there was an observation made about North America as a region. Our games were very scheduled this year. Like there are objective fights at this time, and everybody just kind of hangs out until then.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the LPL, LCK teams, they're ready to fight basically whenever nature calls. And we're not used to that. We're not used to, we're going to fight. Oh, but I didn't buy my, okay.
Right. Somebody's way over there. Are you sure?
Ooh, hey guys, we're a little early for the fight, aren't we?
Yeah, right. Is it 5 o'clock already?
Ooh,
Gee, okay.
my watch does not say 5 o'clock. Can we wait 45 seconds? Yeah. So that's just kind of not happening. And it's like, we've gotten so comfortable with that rhythm that we're not used to experiencing when the rhythm is totally thrown out the window. There's something to that, we're playing in NA, and that is a very bad thing because guess what's happening in NA? Every team is imploding. All the money appears to be drying up for next season. Every rumor right now about rosters is like virtually all teams are not going to be spending much money. Things are theoretically going to get worse in the coming year. And wow, is that a bad feeling?
Yeah. Can I add this is like the international piece I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, go for it.
So NA doing poorly. We've had very bad years before. We've had years that are better than others. So yeah, I think there's a possibility that this is just another cycle, right? They were talking tonight about how like we still haven't hit our record of most losses before we get a win in the group stage. So there are other years that have been this bad. And I feel like there's this annual tradition of like questioning everything we've ever known. Wondering if we should even play League of Legends anymore as a region. Like maybe we just kind of call it a career. Um, Partially though, I think the thing that's concerning. So you mentioned like the money drying up. Um, I think did somebody make a comment about how much Shun makes? Like how much the salary of that player is compared to some of the other
I
players?
made
Like,
a joke about that. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know, like information wise, one of the advantages that NA has always had is money. This will come as a surprise to no one. That's a meme. Um, and so when you talk about the money drying up, like that actually changes fundamentally where we are. Um, and I think probably what that means is like we're gonna have to approach this differently. This post world slump that we have, it's like the hangover from worlds where I was like, ugh, I don't even know if we can make it next year at all. And then we splash the cash and we buy a few of the best players from worlds and like NA's back. This is our year.
Right.
So if we don't do that part of the annual tradition, I don't know what I don't know where this puts us. I think I have a suggestion though, which is I think we just have to drop the charade that we're like a major region. I honestly believe it's time to do that now. And in part, I think it's because it's this like this ego driven aspiration we have that like eventually we're gonna get there. We're gonna beat the LCK, the LPL. They can't beat us forever. Um, I think that's partially probably what's driven some of this, where it's like we are we're not really developing our ecosystem. We're just adding to it, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and it's a little bit of a house of cards, I think. And if we're truly going to see fewer organizations spending in the same way, I think the foundations are going to be revealed to be hollow
Yeah.
on this.
It's like the one
Um,
thing we had going for us, right?
yeah, and and I think the faster we can come to terms with that and just say, look, this isn't this can't be who we are anymore. If the organizations we all like and root for aren't going to spend the insane amounts of money that they always have, w- like there's going to be a lag period to us being anywhere close to competitive.
Yeah.
And I think the quicker we can transition from like it's bogus that LEC gets 4 slots when we only get 3, we need to transition from that to like maybe we ought to consider taking only 2 spots because our teams look bad, dude. Our teams look really rough, and
Was
they're not going to look better next year. I'm afraid to predict. It's I'm worried that this is not just like what's the forecast for 2022. I think that this might be a sign of what's to come. Like especially for us, right?
yeah.
You think just about us. Like w- we're gonna do some rebuilding. I think it's not premature to say that. I'm not going to predict that we're going to hang the next banner next year. That won't be my preseason prediction. Um, and I think that's probably going to be something like the case for a lot of teams, right? Because every team who's at Worlds right now is going to blow up their roster. You can bet.
Yeah.
Nobody likes this result.
Yeah. Someone told me, I didn't see the tweet itself, but someone told me that Kelsey tweeted something like all NA teams should just have to go through play-ins at this point. And it's like from a strategic standpoint, it probably makes sense for us. And then for like a clout standpoint, also hard to argue
Yeah.
right now. Is this the lowest we've been? I mean, it certainly feels like that from when we started observing, in 2018. This feels like the lowest point for us. Like it seems that we have always had a hope at Worlds of one form or another. And now all teams are 0-3.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that like the prevailing winds are not blowing in our favor here. Like we have Sven playing a bunch of champions. He probably has fewer than like 100 games on.
Yeah.
And we've got EG with the Danny situation. So like you look, there is a version of this, the Hopium version, where you're like, it's just a weird roster year. Things happened at the wrong time. The meta shift, the role swap. Um, but I think that would be overly generous, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, and one of the worst parts for us at this moment is it doesn't feel like there are any options for us. Usually there's something you can point to, be like, if we just blank, we might be able to
Yeah.
win. And we don't have that option right now. And then that was exacerbated, in my opinion, by this interview that Reapered gave to Travis that was published today. I don't know if you guys in chat had a chance to listen to this interview, but you should if you haven't. I did not like this interview. I mean, Travis asked him a bunch about, what's going on, how are things going to be different, like what's the cause of this. So a few things he said. Reaper said that the fundamental level that we're playing League at is different now. It's like the fundamentals we're just worse at. He says it feels like we're kind of behind no matter what team comp we play. And he asked him, like, well, what are you doing about this? He said, we're trying to catch up by watching a lot of VODs. And it's like, I couldn't tell if that was a callback to the Mad Lions thing. Remember summer 2021? It's like, well, we watched a lot of Mad Lions VODs. That got us back in, He was talking about like trying to take people outside for fresh air because scrims were going so bad, but they couldn't because it was raining. He said they're all the stuff that they're seeing in scrims and in the VODs, it's like, these are things we already know, but the other teams just do better. He was asked point blank, like, how do you improve between tomorrow and next week? And he didn't have an answer to it. He said a few things, but there was no answer whatsoever. And he straight up said practice is just not going well for us. So that is not the type of interview you give when you are planning on carrying this team to a better performance, either in the near future or the distant future. This is not the kind of interview from a man that believes he's going to be coaching 100 Thieves for much longer. That's in my opinion. I hated that interview. And I usually love Reapered interviews. Is it candid? Yeah, you betcha. Are there some sound bites? Yeah, you betcha.
Yeah.
Does that interview inspire any sort of confidence? No, you bet it doesn't.
And it wasn't even Travis going for like trap question. I feel like Travis was trying to like, but you've got 3 more games, so
he's like,
you got a plan?
I don't know. It's just so bad. It's just so bad. I feel so sorry for everybody. I feel sorry for the players too. They deserve this criticism, but I feel bad for them. And these are guys that, will always be indebted to. These guys brought us our first title. They brought some really great memories. I said this earlier in the Discord. Unironically, we'll always have summer 2021, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that was truly an amazing time, and these players, this staff brought us that. So we'll always be indebted to them, but it's just not that's definitely in the rearview mirror at this point. Let's run through some listener takes and try and get out of here before we start getting too drastic with our depression here. Kevin Wilt asks, how much does Someday have to do to get this team across the finish line? It's kind of always been this way.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of always been this way. A lot of high performing Someday games where we're not able to convert it into wins. And a lot of the wins we get are off of great performances from him. So this man, his back must be broken in 1,000 ways at this point. He's playing the best out of any of our players at this moment, yet again. He's the GOAT. He's the 100 Thieves GOAT. Like, no discussion. Someday is the GOAT for us, but even he is not able to pull this off. And it's sad. I want better for Kind Boy.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. The thing that I had an interesting thought today, and it was like, if he is not on the team in the future, he's kind of showing that he could play basically anywhere.
Yeah.
Like if you dumpster Doran, which he did, is there not a person in the LCK who's like, he played that a lot better than our guy does?
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe
I
one
don't
of
know. It's
those
weird.
rosters in NA that is in need of an actually good top laner and has money to spend, like C9. They
Yeah.
might be
Any
interested.
one of them. Can you imagine?
Uh,
It breaks my heart to talk about somebody playing somewhere else, but you know, roster
it'll be
this roster is done.
it'll be
So
one of those rare breakups where you're actually happy for the ex.
yeah, like
It's
he
like,
deserves. You deserve.
he did get
You
to a better
deserve more.
Cody says, yeah, we need to get FBI going or we're in trouble. Would love to see closer off of Poppy as well.
Yeah.
It's as plain as day. Like, yes, we need to get FBI going. I thought the Aphelios pick had a lot of potential for him. At least he's not playing MF. Why in the world we haven't seen a Kaisa game from him is beyond me.
Yeah.
Gen.G in chat with Ultimate Copium. Can't they still go 4-3? Yes, if we win all 3 of our next games in the tiebreaker, yes, we can do that. So,
but yeah.
Squizmatic says, after this game from Huhi, I wouldn't be surprised to see Busio play at least a game during Worlds.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah.
And a lot of people said this, actually.
Hmm.
I know what I think about this, but what do you think about that?
Look, this kid does not need his first professional game to be against.
Thank you.
Any of the other 3 teams in this group don't need it.
Come on. Let's preserve this kid's innocence a little bit longer.
Yeah. The experience that he is getting being there and hearing the conversation and the analysis and watching the VODs is enough, guys. That's experience too. We don't need him to go out there to play on a broken team.
Man, Benji's still going at it in chat. I want Benji to be my life coach. But I totally agree with you. I don't think Busio, I think that's how you give players a bad start.
I mean, we saw it with Saligo to go way back.
Yeah, starting before he's ready. Yep.
That wasn't Worlds, but like he just went in to a team that was pretty low, man. And it's not a good mix.
No, it's not. Bamatide says, of course, he's suggesting we have fun with it, like have fun with the strategy. He was replying to something that we said about just having a fun game, go out and play what we feel is fun and comfortable and like our style, right? So he says, of course, like have fun with it, as you called. We lost game 1 of Worlds and we were basically out. Our org is a leader of, all caps, entertainment. Make your games entertaining and fun, not boring, meta, and outplayed. Let your team have fun. After all, this is the last time they play together. And I just thought it was so funny because it's like kind of like, a flippant kind of take, but it's still true. It's like, I honestly, how this is kind of like when you have a day where you take your kids somewhere like big, like say you go to like a theme park or something, and the day goes so horribly and everything goes wrong and there's a kid throwing up and you didn't make any of your plans work and everybody's been screaming and tired and crying. And there's a point where you just give in and you're like, all right, we did what we could now. And then it's like, so everything they asked for is just like, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
Get on a roller coaster by yourself. Yeah, sure. Haven't we reached that point? The point where you give up. It's like, yes, okay, McDonald's for dinner, whatever. I don't want to cook.
You want another funnel cake? You just threw up that one. Why don't you just get another one? Go for it.
and maybe bring out my old idea of the monk robes for the entrance. Put them in geography print monk robes. Let them walk out.
And then they leave, and you're like, that was actually
hoods on, hands down.
The best day of my life.
Yeah,
that was amazing. Yep.
I think it's time. And like I said, let these guys enjoy their last bit of time together.
Yep.
Man, we're so disrespectful. Sen says, I love our current team, but clearly 100T and the rest of NA is getting outclassed mechanically and fundamentally. The problem isn't our team, but more on how our region is at adapting and excelling to each meta. Hard to argue, right?
I mean, I don't think anybody's going to make an argument in good faith that not that much is wrong in NA, right? Like it's off the rails. We're off the rails.
And yeah, it's like it's difficult because I want to agree with Sen on like I love our current team thing. I just want to emphasize that because while we're being hypercritical of what's happened, I still love these guys so much, man. Still love them.
Mm-hmm.
I want the best for them. The region has not produced the best out of them, but neither have we for whatever reason. Just too sad. Chandler Grote says, "Can't we just play Phelios?" We did today, at least. He sent this take in before the game. It's strong and he's good on it. I think Closer plays Poppy well. He just seems to whiff the ult a lot. Teams have gotten out of groups at 2-4, and Fnatic got out 1 year after going 0-3 in the first round robin. I know the games haven't looked great, but GenG was a big improvement from CFO, and I believe we can do it. That's the guy you want leading the ship, Chandler.
Yeah.
Chandler,
Get him into the
would you like
room
to host this podcast? Because we're more defeatist than you.
Yeah.
He's given the halftime speech. This is halftime of Worlds, after all.
This is halftime. Yep.
We're
down a lot.
Pen Ragdoll says, "I cry. Where is our Phelios, Varus, Callista? I'd even take Ezreal over Misfortune. And Viego? Closer is a literal god on this. It's not like it's not meta. This is so confusing. I missed the heist, so at least we saw some of the background info." Yeah, I don't think the background information is really coming unless they get generous with the off-season interviews and content. Oh my gosh, Mokoshana just said Broncos country. Let's cry. Oh my gosh. I make Broncos country let's ride jokes all day in one of my WhatsApp threads. So thank you for that. But yeah, I agree. And at least, like I said, tonight we saw a couple of those picks come through and we looked better for longer on them. So maybe we get more of this. Glenn E. Taylor, very insightful taker and talker, says much more representative, talking about today, I think. I can't remember. I don't have the timestamp on this tweet. Either way, it still applies, you know, whether you're talking about Gen.G or RNG. Much more representative, still confused by some draft decisions in Prio. So yeah, it must have been after game 2. More confused by some takes where a personnel swap fixes issues that seem to be larger than hands diff. And I think that's, you know, that's an important thing too. Like I think probably in reference to people calling for Busio, because that was going on a lot in my timeline and mentions today. Yes, I absolutely agree with that part. Like this is not something you fix by by hot swapping someone on the roster, right? This is something you rebuild over the break.
Yeah. Yep.
Nick Moore submitted a cold take, and his take reads as follows. Not good.
There you go. That's the take.
Point well pointed.
Yeah.
But newsflash, JC101 has a take, calling it adobo pepper, by the way.
Okay. Excellent.
So adobo pepper take. Yeah. NA macro looks like our teams are on a 30-second delay. We're getting out-rotated in every aspect of the game. Every team fight needs 30 more seconds to set up, need 30 more seconds to clear wards, etc. Maybe it's possible. You know how they put in an artificial ping for everybody to satisfy China? It was like RNG.
Yeah.
We're playing RNG. Maybe they left the artificial ping on for one side and dialed it way up.
Yeah. 30,000 milliseconds. That's it. It's barely noticeable.
It does look like we're late. Today the resetting for that one dragon was like, it was really weird. And it got called out, which makes it feel way worse.
Agreed.
Which is very, very sad. Emmerich just linked a tweet from Someday that was just tweeted a few minutes ago, and all it says is next week will be better. And Closer also replying said next week will be better. So, all right, that's what you want to hear. That's an appropriate message right now from the boys. So I like that. One final take, which we already addressed, so whatever. But Tad Sparrow said if we go 0-3, we play Busio the last 3, and I don't think that's going to happen. Neither would I want it to happen, but I understand.
Yep.
Okay. So that's the listener takes for this week.
Okay.
We got some funky energy on this team, and I don't know what's going to fix it, but we're basically in a situation where we must win the 3 next games. What are our chances of that?
They're
I
so
don't know.
low. They're very low.
Yeah.
It's a very low probability outcome.
Yeah. By the way, Squiz, he said not my David versus Goliath take. Squiz, you submitted like 8 takes, and I read one of them. So sorry about that. We do love you though, and I love reading your tweets. So yeah, what are our chances?
They're not high. I mean, coming back, I'll kind of wrap this up where I approximate where I began, which is even if we make it out of groups, I just don't think it matters in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, if we win the world championship, great. I will have a party, Cole, and I'll invite you and our friends. It'll be fun. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think we'll make it out of groups. And so I think that this is, are we technically ahead of the conversation? Yes. But I do think this is a precursor to where we're headed, which is 2023. I think we should expect to see change.
Big change.
And you know what? And I mentioned this to you offline earlier. If there's a silver lining here, maybe it's that we can now move into next season without a lot of the hemming and hawing and questioning and doubting and second guessing and how could they's. I think we should expect to see changes, and I think that is right. Obviously, we don't know what those changes are, and we won't for some time. But I would be shocked if we didn't. Like, I don't think there's any I don't think there's any scenario where we don't. Basically, so that's where we start to look now. So for me, I'm less looking at the next week and the next 3 games. I'm more thinking about 2023.
How funny is it going to be if we win the next 3 games?
Yeah.
How complicated does this get?
What is this? My feelings, my emotions?
Yeah.
Or
and like what happens next year?
I don't know, man. I really do think
you blow it up even if we win the next 3.
Yeah, I think so.
Woo! I think so. My honest prediction, I think we'll win a game in the next 3 games. And that's likely to be Flying Oyster, but even if we don't beat Flying Oyster, I can see us sneaking a win from somebody else. So I don't know in what form or fashion it is, but I don't think we end up 0-6. I think we end up at 1-5. I'm praying that I'm not cursing us by pronouncing that out loud. Maybe I should have not done this. Jordan, reset the stream, please, and delete this section from the pod.
Yeah, cut the tape.
Do you think we take a game?
I think we do. Because I think another thing that this team has shown over the years is that they can win games even when everyone has pronounced them dead. So, here's what I'll say. My prediction exactly is that we beat Flying Oyster and then we beat RNG to keep them from getting into a tiebreaker for first place. Where have we seen this storyline before? Oh yeah, it's the other time that we did this.
So you no credence to RNG being up a game in the standings on GenG? That would imply they have to lose 2 and not just 1 game. So that's kind of a bold prediction.
Doing that as a meme.
Okay.
I was just
or maybe we do that to GenG.
Yeah, the other way. We give it back to the LPL since we messed them up last time. It didn't matter for them last time. They still won.
Play spoiler. Well, I think our mindset going into this last week, which I strongly think is the last week with these boys, is just to, just watch. It's got to be like if you're a parent of a high school senior who plays sports and they're not going to make it to the next level, but you're watching the last games, it's like, all right,
cheering hard.
This is the end of the road. Let's just have fun with it. And I'm just going to try and like love them, you know, right? Rather than like worry about the games. It's gonna be like,
Yes.
oh, I love when closer just
Ah,
goes in and tries to find the insane play there. Oh
yeah. Yeah.
man, do I love watching someday 1v2 under turret, you know? Just try to
Yeah.
appreciate the things that make them uniquely 100 Thieves.
You know what? I like that. I like that. And I'll do what we sometimes do, which is share a high school swimming story. And that's, I'm pretty sure I set my PR in the race that I typically raced, my very last swim at
Mm,
like sectionals.
yeah.
And it wasn't good enough to make it to state. And it wasn't good enough to mean anything. It didn't win us a trophy. It didn't, it didn't change the outcome in any meaningful way. I don't think I even placed in like the top 3 of the heat. But you know what? It was a PR, and I remember the swim, and it was a good swim. And so let's get another one of those. Let's see who we can dumpster in lane. Let's see who we can knock off. We still reflect fondly on the EDG win, even though it didn't meaningfully change our
Yeah.
worlds.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's still things to play for. Like we're still
Do you
a
know what we're
team.
playing for? We're playing for the 100 Talk top 20 plays of 100 Thieves LCS. That's what we're playing for now.
Yeah, that's right. That's an important thing.
We
to
got
play
one. We got in the Gen.G game someday got one on the Aatrox. Like, all right, this is the way.
There.
We're just playing for the highlights now. We're making the mixtape.
Let's get some more highlights for the mixtape. I want to have more happy memories, even if it doesn't mean that we get it done.
This goes on the montage at the graduation party, you know?
That's right. That's right. And then we get to talk about what comes next in life, which is 2023.
And crushing sadness, which how fitting that we made the graduation comparison. Well,
we're already moving through the crushing sadness phase. I think even during this podcast, we're already coming out of it, Cole. We're moving on to acceptance.
We're moving
whatever
through
the
grieving.
other steps are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is
I've
good.
done
this
a
is
lot
healing.
of bargaining, I'll tell you
that. How much would I have to buy at the next drop?
How many to extend the budget? Yeah.
To keep someday. I just need us to keep someday. He's playing well.
How many juvies do I have to drink to make it happen?
Just name it. Give me the number.
Okay. Well, this is going to do it for 100 Talk tonight. We're sorry, guys. We know you want to watch a more exciting and fun Worlds. Shout out to those of you who are keeping the positive energy and doing a better job of that than we are, like Benji. Shout out Benji.
Yep.
Yeah, let's just have fun watching these guys over the next 3 games. And that's where we're at. We'll take everything as it comes. Let's live in the moment for this last week. I guess we have almost a full week to wait because we're on the Sunday.
This is right. They switched to
this is where you go the full group round robin in the same day, and it's right when I'll be busy too. So it's great timing. Well, maybe we'll do a VOD squad. Who knows? But I think the thing is, let's just watch them ride into the sunset. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sunset Riders. Yeah.
Speed run any percent. Okay, everybody, we love you and we miss you already.